What's up, guys? Welcome to the Wide Receiver Academy Film Room. I'm Tim Cortazzo. Today, we're breaking down Jaxon Smith-Njigba, the Ohio State University. Check us out, widereceiver.io, or head over to our Instagram at Wide Receiver Academy. All right, let's get to work. All right, here we go. Jaxon Smith-Njigba, the Ohio State University Buckeyes. Just another big-time receiver as of recent with Ohio State. It's hard to not say they're wide receiver U right now. Them and Alabama are just churning guys out. 2 first-round picks last year, Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson. JSN, Jaxon Smith-Njigba, is actually the leading receiver last year. He led the team in catches, led the team in yards. Just unbelievable statistics, especially finishing out the year in the Rose Bowl. He was the MVP of the Rose Bowl. Record-breaking game, 15 catches, 347 yards, and 3 touchdowns. And you can make the argument, people will say, well, he's getting the third best guy with Olave and Garrett Wilson. I don't necessarily know if that's the case. He's a very good receiver. He's just very polished. He has a lot of just little nuances that he brings to the game. He's a very smart, knowledgeable receiver. He's very crafty, does really well in leveraging the defender. Getting in and out of his breaks. He's a technician. He's really good at what he does, and you're going to see on the film breakdown today. This is actually our first film breakdown. So JSN is the first guy I want to talk about just because of how crafty he is, and he's going to be up there. Preseason All-American. He might get some Heisman talk here, especially with C.J. Stroud at the helm. Both of those guys are going to be in the conversation for some end-of-season awards after this year, but let's just talk about JSN a little bit. He's from Dallas, Texas, had over 5,000 yards receiving and 80-plus touchdowns in high school. Think about those numbers, 5,000 yards receiving and 80-plus touchdowns. In Texas, too, where high school football is king. He's a 5-star coming out, obviously commits to Ohio State. Doesn't play too much in his first year. He had 10 catches, 49 yards, and a touchdown in 2020. And then last year, obviously, just blows up, puts himself on the map. And again, in that receiver room, it's tough getting all these targets, but he finished the season, like I said, 95 receptions, 1,606 yards, and 9 touchdowns. Listen to these numbers here, the last 5 games of the season. And I already gave you the Rose Bowl. He went 15 for 347 and 3 touchdowns. But before that, Michigan, 11 catches for 127. Michigan State, 10 for 105 and a touchdown. Purdue, 9 for 139 and a touchdown. And Nebraska, 15 for 240 and a touchdown. Just the last 5 games of the year, he had 60 catches, close to 1,000 yards, and 6 touchdowns. So the guy's good. He's a very good player. And he's going to be ranked as one of the top wide receivers in this class coming up in the 2023 draft class, obviously barring any health issues. And granted, he stays healthy throughout the season, but it has to be nice, too, catching passes from C.J. Stroud. He's another guy that is going to go really high in the draft whenever it's his time. So let's get into the breakdown a little bit. I want to talk. This is JSN against Penn State, and we just are going to cover his targets here. So this is just his targets against Penn State last year in 2021. He had a pretty decent game. I want to say 6 catches, 97 yards. He didn't score at all. I want to say it's not an average game, but average compared relative to the season he had. But there's a lot of good things he does in this video, which is why I wanted to bring it up. And another reason, too, is Penn State's secondary is really good. Jaquan Brisker's back there. Joey Porter Jr., 2 really high-ranked guys. Brisker was obviously a draft pick last year, and Joey Porter Jr. is going to be another one coming up. But he plays in the slot a lot, and like I say, he does a lot of crafty things. So let's get into it. First play here against Penn State. Some of the down and distances are off a little bit on this cut-up, so bear with me there. And like I said, this is our first breakdown, so getting used to some new tools and some new screen recording stuff here. So, all right, here we go. JSN, he's in the slot. All right, he's working off of this overhang defender. We're going to talk a little bit about coverages here. Roll the tape just a little bit. One way I like to tell coverages is initially just looking at the safeties. Okay, so we see one safety here is back. All right. See another safety down here over top, but It looks like he's going to drop down into man coverage here. So it looks like man coverage across the board. We'll just call it cover 1. And he's just going to run a little out route. Okay, but how he does this is I want you guys to watch, number one, how he leverages this defender. Watch how he stems and where his release goes. Okay, so he has inside leverage on him. The defender has inside leverage on him right now. Okay, this defender right here. One thing that JSN does really well, and you're going to see this a couple times in the film, is he works to get this guy's hips turned. So all he's going to do is attack his inside leverage here. And that inside leverage, as he gets him squared up, gives him a couple ways to go. Okay, he could go inside, he could run by him, he could work back outside. And one thing I love that he does here, and you're going to see how much it helps him here, is as he works to that inside, he creates more window on the outside where he's going to catch this ball. All right, so him working to this inside, he gave himself more room out here. And you're going to see why that's so important, because this corner right here is going to come off of his man, and he's going to come screaming downhill for a kill shot. And JSN's release here helps him avoid that and doesn't allow him to take that blunt force hit there. Let the tape roll. Another thing he does really well, he comes out flat in his route. Watch how he gets his head around, snaps his head around back to the ball. Getting your head turned out of your break is one of the most important things you could do. Your head is going to initiate where your hips are going to go. So whenever that head snaps around, he pulls his right arm, his inside arm through. That gets his hips turned. And wherever his hips are, that's the angle he's going to take. So if his hips, and you could see they're pointed here. That was an ugly line. Pointed here to stay out flat. If his hips are turned at all, if he doesn't get his head around back to the quarterback and he starts to drift and his hips are this way, again, looking at another kill shot here. But he does a really good job of getting that head turned, pulling that inside arm that helps him get out of his break and stay nice and flat and friendly to that quarterback. And again, 2nd and 9, gives him about a 5-yard gain, makes it 3rd and manageable for Ohio State. So we're going to see here how he gets this guy's hips turned. Okay, he's working to his inside. And you could see on the left side of the screen here. Watch 25. The second he turns his hips is when JSN's going to snap this route off. Now, it's not even a whip route. It's just an out route. Okay, it's just an out route. And one thing he does so well, again, getting his head turned, number one, all right, leveraging that defender. But look at the angle of his shin here. We're going to talk a lot about shin angles, how shin angles help you get in and out of your break. Okay, he has this nice angle to help stop himself and then push back into the ground to get out of that route. His foot's not too wide outside of his body. He's not in a dangerous position here for his knee or anything like that. But he has a nice angle into the ground to stop himself and then reapply force and push into the ground to get out of that route. And you're going to see 25. The second, you could already see his hips start to turn. He has a nice head fake. JSN does a nice head fake inside as well. 25's hips are turned. He's reaching for him. There he goes right out of it. Now, you could see here, look at his head already coming around to the quarterback. He's trying to snap his head around as quickly as he can to get his hips turned so he could get flat. Look where his head is the second he gets out of this route. It's already back to the quarterback. And you see the separation right there. He's able to drive out, make the catch, absorb the hit, got 5 yards, 3rd and manageable. All right, on to the next play. Let's look at the coverage here. Looks like cover 3. Okay, so let's talk about cover 3 real quick. Cover 3, we're going to have this corner working his 3rd. We're going to have this safety. We'll say he's going to split the middle of this formation and split the most dangerous guys down the middle of the field. But he has a 3rd. Then this corner over here is going to have a third. Okay, so the weak spots in cover 3 are these seams. All right, and Ohio State sees that. They know they're going cover 3 here. They run a little motion. You're going to see Ohio State just run their normal 4 verticals here. Tight end motions across. All right, from here, JSN is just going to run to the opposite hash here. Okay, so his route is going to put pressure on this safety. He's working to this hash where I showed you those voids in the defense. This guy's just going to run this corner off. Okay, and I'll show you one thing I do like that Ohio State does with their outside guys. He's going to run his corner off, and this tight end is going to work right up this hash. And like I said, they're trying to put pressure on this middle safety right here. They end up missing on this throw. Okay, so let's watch the release at the beginning here. One important thing, JSN knows the coverage. He knows where he has to get to. One thing he does really well, he doesn't get caught up in this backer here. He doesn't let the backer get his hands on him. And Penn State does a terrible job of collisioning. They're just going to let this guy run free. He's an All-American. They're just letting him run free down the middle of the field. No collision there, but JSN doesn't try to widen. He doesn't try to go outside of him. He takes that best release because he sees that he has an inside he sees that he has some inside room. 13, the linebacker here for Penn State. Again, no collision, just letting him run free. This is a touchdown if it hits. Wide open down the hash. Probably adds to his stat line. But they end up missing. Just missed. Great concept for Ohio State. It's wide open against this cover 3 look. Okay, now one thing I want to talk about. Ohio State runs these dropouts on the outside. So one of the rules that they have is if you cannot beat this corner deep, all right, in an all-go situation, a 4-man-go situation like this, if you cannot beat this guy deep, all we're going to do is run a dropout and make yourself available. Okay, so general rule of thumb that I like to use is if we're even, we're leaving. So if I'm even with that defender, I'm running by him. If I can't get over top of him, I'm just going to drop out and make myself available. So you'll see Garrett Wilson's down here, just kind of falls out. All right, it's almost like a comeback. Up at the top, I think it's Olave's at the top. Same exact thing. He knows he can't get over top of that corner. He's just going to fall out and make himself available for Stroud to hit him. It was the correct read. They just missed. You'll see why they miss here. Stroud's throwing that ball, and you see JSN's angles here, right where Stroud wants to throw it. JSN is actually working more here. And you'll see that ball is just going to be slightly behind because of it. But again, should have been a touchdown. All right, on to the next play. We got a trips formation. We got a tight end is slightly split out down here, still tight. Got man coverage here. JSN's open on a dig, about 12 yards-ish on the catch. It's a nice concept by Ohio State. They're going to talk about, and you'll hear us talk about this, it's a pretty simple read for the quarterback, but it's a triangle read, as I like to call it. And it's basically, it's not as big in man, but it makes it an easy read for the quarterback. We get a zone type look. You could use it in man a little bit too, but they're essentially making a triangle here. Let me go back to the beginning. So we're going to have Jackson's going to run a dig here, which is ultimately going to make that catch. Okay, and he's just working on man, so he's working against this safety that's going to drop down. We get a clear out from here. All right, he's just running a go to clear that guy out of there. We're going to get another dig behind on the outside. This will be his last read. And this tight end is just going to drag right across the field to create a little bit of a high-low. But the three guys that we're looking at here, okay, are going to form a triangle. So we got 1, we got 2, and that ball should probably hit a little bit more inside, but you get the idea. 3. Change the color. Creates this triangle. And it makes it a much easier read for Stroud, and it stresses the defense. What JSN does really well in this route here, he knows that he has the inside already. He knows the spot that he wants to get to. He has that inside leverage. So this defender here from Penn State's playing outside of him. So he's just going to work right to it. His head gets around. He already has that separation. Again, let's look at his hips. Here's a separation here, but look where his hips are pointed. Because his head's turned, because he pulls that inside arm, his hips are working to stay flat. Because his hips are pointed in that direction, it allows him to accelerate and stay flat and stay friendly for the quarterback. If his hips are turned upfield at all, that's where you're going to drift. And he makes this catch, and he keeps that separation because of that. Because his hips are turned, because his head's around, he's able to stay nice and flat, and that gives him space. And again, the problem when you drift, all right, and this is why coaches will harp on it so much. The problem when you drift, all right, let's just say he doesn't get his hips turned and he's going to drift upfield this way. The separation that he has right now, okay, because he stays friendly, he's able to keep that separation. If he drifts, it's much easier for this guy to work to this spot. Shorter distance, A to B, straight line. It's a lot easier than him trying to work back down this way if JSN stayed flat. The other reason is this safety right here. It takes him out of the equation. If he's drifting, he's now in the equation for a hit or making a play. Also, when he drifts, this becomes a much farther throw for Stroud. So if he's drifting upfield here, let's say he catches it closer to the 40-yard line, that's about a 3-yard difference. That ball is in the air for about 3 yards longer, which allows the defense more time to make a play on the football. And that's why it's so important to not drift on these routes. Makes a catch for a first down. Again, it's the little details that he does so well, and it's why I like Jaxon Smith-Njigba so much, is because of those little details that he's really good at. All right, 2-by-2 formation here. Cover 3. I have a couple questions here with what Ohio State does, but it's kind of the same look as before. All right, it's a 4 all-go situation. So 4 guys are running goes down the middle of the field. Now, I don't know if this is a planned stop or if this is a conversion from all goes and he decides to stop because he knows he can't get over top. So let's assume that it's a 4-go situation. All 4 guys are running down the field. They're all running goes. And let's just assume that because he can't get over top of this defender, he's just going to jam on the brakes. Okay, so he's working off of, or he's watching this defender here. All right. And again, it's cover 3. So middle of the field, these corners are pretty deep. All right, and it's more of a soft cover 3 here. But these guys got their thirds of the field. All right, this guy's working almost in like the curl area here. He's going to kind of just sit back into this area here. This safety's kind of doing the same thing off of this tight end here. And he's looking to collision that. And again, the idea is we're trying to stress the safety. We're trying to get down the seams here on a 4-go. JSN realizes he's not going to be able to get over top of that. So you have 2 options here. Okay, he has 2 options here. Again, this is assuming that this was an on-the-fly, he decided to drop out. he has two options here. He could try to wrap this guy, okay, which seems like it's going to be pretty tough in this situation here, in this given situation, or he could jam on the brakes right here and make himself available to the quarterback, which is what he decides to do. Gets his numbers of the quarterback. Again, he snaps his head around, jams on those brakes. Easy throw for Stroud. Stroud does a really good job of throwing away from that defender. And the only reason I think maybe that it might be a dropout is because of, watch how Jaxon plants with his right foot here. Okay, typically if you want to go to the right side, it's a little bit easier to plant with your left foot to initiate your deceleration and initiate your brake with your left foot. He uses his right foot, okay, which is his first step in slowing down. His left foot to gather. Then you're going to see his right foot here. We'll talk about 1, 2, 3 a lot. I like using a 1, 2, 3. It's almost like a rhythm. Your last 3 steps before you break down. Your step number 1 is your initial deceleration step. Step number 2 would be your gather step. And then step number 3 would be your final breakdown step to help you get out of your route and push back down to the quarterback. But you'll see his third step's on the inside. This isn't ideal simply because you don't have cleats on the outside of your shoe here. You're going to see how far his right foot gets underneath him. Sometimes when receivers fall, you'll see that inside foot kind of kick out, causing that. But he gets his left foot in the ground here. And like I said, his head's already turned. He's pulling that inside arm. His final left foot here stops him. Okay, and you see the angle into the ground with that shin that's able to help him get back to the quarterback. Stroud thrown away from the defender makes an easy catch. All right, on to the next play here. Now, we're looking at the safeties again. I mentioned earlier in this cut-up that identify the safeties first. Okay, so we're looking at 1 safety, 2 safeties. 2 high safeties here, okay? Next thing we're looking at. The corners are slightly turned inside with their eyes back to the quarterback. Sometimes when you see that, that could be a dead giveaway for potential cover 2. And in colleges, especially at this high of a level, they do a good job of masking coverages. So some of this will change after pre-snap once that ball is snapped. So Penn State's actually going to run something we call Tampa 2. All right, it's a Tampa 2 coverage. So let's identify this real quick. Safety has this half of the field. This safety has this half of the field. Corner's going to be in the flat here. Just circle him. This corner's going to be in the flat here. Circle him. Now, this backer right here is just working to get depth. All right, so you might see Tampa 2 out of a 3rd and long situation, or something later in a game where they might not want to give up a big play as the time's ticking down in the half or to end the game. But this linebacker is going to get depth. All right, and what Ohio State's going to run here, okay, and again, they're trying to take advantage of this cover 2. Let's talk about the soft spots and just normal cover 2. We got middle of the field here. We got outside in this window here in between this corner and the flat, and this safety getting to his half of the field. And then we got the same thing down here. We got this guy getting his half. He's in the flat, so we got a nice little window in right here outside. And Ohio State's going to run 3 verticals here. All right, so it's a max protection, 3-man route. The goal is to get JSN down the middle of the field, this guy into this window on the outside, this guy into this window on the outside. Now, what Jaxon does really well is he identifies this coverage right away. So again, avoids the collision here, bounces back inside. Penn State, again, not doing a great job of getting hands on anyone. JSN realizes he's not going to be able to get to the middle of the field and split those safeties. So all he's going to do is, instead of running to get covered, at this linebacker getting deep here. Okay, him right here. We got this guy right here, so he's not going to run to get covered here. All he's going to do is work behind him and just find a window that Stroud could throw to. And he does a really good job here. Once he gets out of that window, watch him run back through this window. Okay, now if he just stays put, he has a little separation here, but if he just stays put, this defender is converging, this defender is converging. Okay, and he's going to run right back down through this window here, working back to the quarterback, and look at all the separation he creates. By doing that, he's standing there pretty much alone for Stroud to find him. Penn State's all saying it's incomplete. I don't know the end result of this, but regardless, it's a really nice job by JSN wrapping and then working back down to the quarterback. Look at his numbers. Numbers to the quarterback. His hands are ready. His eyes are to the quarterback. I don't know if he caught it or not, but it's a first down if he did. Okay, we got him in the slot here. They're going to motion Olave across. Turns into a 2-by-2 formation. Looks like man all the way for Penn State. Okay, one high safety. Got the corner on the outside. Eyes are on the receiver, looking like it's manned up there on Garrett Wilson. And then obviously down here, okay, we're going to watch JSN. Now, I just call this a patient release. Okay, let's talk about his release real quick. He's very patient with it. So, number 5 gets down into the box here. We'll say he gets into the box. He gets down to cover Jaxon a little bit late. So he almost has like an outside leverage on him. Now all he's going to do is patiently wait. Okay, he gives him something at the line of scrimmage. He doesn't rush it. He's patiently waiting to see what number 5 is going to give him. He sees this inside opportunity. He takes the inside release. Now, from here, he does a really good job of trying to stack number 5. Look how he doesn't just get flushed down into the hash here. Okay, by him trying to stack number 5 here, it gives him multiple things that he could do. Okay, he could run a dig inside. Again, he's over the top of him. He could swipe him by and run an out. He can simply just run a go. Okay, he has a corner he could run. He has a post he can run. He has the whole route tree simply because he tries to get on top of that defender. What he ends up doing is just jamming on the brakes. We're going to talk about his breakdown, and one thing that I really like that he does, we'll see it from the end zone view, but again, snaps his head around, pulls that inside arm. He's sudden. He's available to the quarterback. He has the separation. Look at number 5. His hips are completely turned. He's not working back to the receiver there. He got his hips turned before he could push back downhill. There's the catch, and then the rest is just being an athlete. One knock that someone might give Jaxon Smith-Njigba is his top end speed. I don't care about it too much. The guy's always open. Plus, he is 2 years out of high school, so the strength staff and the performance staff at Ohio State has this whole off season to get him faster, which I know they're going to do. He's going to improve in that area. And he's savvy enough that the top end speed really doesn't matter. He can separate, he can work in tight spaces, and he can catch the football. He gets open, he catches the football. It's a main job of the wide receiver. Create separation, get yourself open, catch the football. Top end speed is one of those bonus things. If you're a receiver that can fly, that's a bonus. If you're a receiver that can fly but you can't separate, you can't run routes, you can't catch the football, all that speed is pointless. Better off running track. All right, back to how he runs this route. So you'll see he's working to get back on top of number 5 here. Now, something that he does so well, look at his head turn here. His head is to the outside, just trying to keep number 5 thinking that he's going to work back outside. All right, and it helps just keep number 5 nice and still there. It doesn't let him slide his hips. Sometimes if a If it's man coverage and he's playing inside leverage, if you get an inside release on him, some guys are taught to slide back behind to this inside hip to get back to where you want it to be in the first place. But this little head turn like this keeps number 5 out there. Now watch how quickly he snaps his head back around. Okay. Head is back to the quarterback. Because of that, his hips get turned. And because of how sudden that happens, he's wide open for a catch, and then obviously the run after. Let's talk about his break real quick. He's breaking off that right foot again. Maybe he just feels more comfortable with that right foot. I mean, he does a really good job. This is his, again, talking about a 1-2-3 breakdown. The first step is the step that slows you down. It's the step that helps you gather yourself to finish your break. Try to slow it down here. He's going right foot on his first step. Left foot on his second step here. And we're going to talk a little bit about a pigeon toe. You'll hear some receiver coaches teach a pigeon toe. All right, and all it is your toe is pointed slightly inside. That helps get your hips turned. It helps start your hip turn. But right after this, he has a nice angle. Okay, he gets his right foot back into the ground, and you'll notice how his right toe is already started to point back to this quarterback. And I'll show a drill later that can break this down even further, how a pigeon toe would work and how getting your hips turned and how that inside foot turning can help you get out of this route. But again, it starts with his head. It starts getting his head turned and pulling that inside arm that allows his hips to get back around and do the work there. Almost a touchdown. 2x2. Cover 1. Man coverage here. Here's that triangle we talked about. Some people will call this route spacing. Let's break down the route a little bit. Again, it's man coverage. We got this tight end down here. He's running to the middle of the field, almost like a spot route. And he's just going to sit in this window here. Garrett Wilson is going to work an inside release. He's going to sit off of right here. JSN's going to run a drag the whole way across the field, and he's going to keep it moving because it is man coverage. Let's get a different color. But here is that triangle again that we see. Show it again where they break down. And Stroud realizes it's man coverage, so he's going to pick the guy that's moving across the formation. He already has that separation. It's an easy matchup to pick. There's that triangle that I was talking about. He probably could have threw to any one of these three. Wilson gets grabbed. Tight end looks like he's going to get grabbed too. It's a much easier throw just hitting this crosser route. But again, JSN's nice and flat down the line. If he's let it all here, I think Stroud throws it just a little bit into his hips. If he gets it out in front, probably has a shot at a touchdown because he does have enough separation. Penn State defender does a nice job making that tackle and minimizing the damage. Patient release again. 25's reaching. Not great technique on his end. It's tough playing DB. You got to cover guys like Jaxon. You got Olave and Garrett Wilson out there. That's a tall task for anyone in the country. All right, one thing I want to talk about here, and we'll touch on this real quick before we finish. I want to talk about Chris Olave's route here. So Olave is going to run in motion across the field here, and you're going to see him. It goes from a 3x1, kind of a tight 3x1 there, almost a slight bunch, to a 2x2 formation here. Let's let it roll just a little bit. Now, you see when this ball is snapped, Olave's working off this defender here on the outside, working off this guy here. One thing that Olave does really well is he knows he has his inside leverage, but he's not just going to run straight up the field. If he runs straight up the field here, this guy's just going to squeeze. Okay, he feels comfortable out there. So he's just going to squeeze and basically force Olave to, again, it's cover one, so you got one high safety. He's basically just going to funnel Olave right to that safety. So what Olave does really well is he stems him. Okay, he works his leverage. He forces to that inside hip. And all that does is that causes this Penn State defender to widen out more. So you're going to see where he starts. Olave, you're going to see where the ball's snapped. So he's on the hash when it's snapped. Look where he's running to. He's not running straight up. He's running outside of the hash. Now, he went from on the hash to a yard or two outside of the hash. Because of that, he gives himself room to run multiple routes here. All right, so let's say we want to hit him on a post. He just widened this defender. Because he widened this guy out, he creates this massive window in here between this corner and this safety right here. So if he wants to run a post, he could snap his head around and Stroud's going to bang it in there for a touchdown. He can run a stop route. Okay, he can run a stop route from here. And he's away from everything. I mean, that's a really easy throw for Stroud. What he does end up running here is an out. And you're going to see why this is so effective. He widens out number 9 here. Okay, he's forced into that inside hip to widen him. But now watch how number 9's hips get turned. His hips get turned because of this threat. Okay, he feels like maybe he's going to go back inside. His hips start to get turned just so he can push and try to squeeze onto a post if he would run one. But now Olave, once those hips are turned, he's just going to snap it off and run the out. That's a touchdown down here. Stroud recognizes this as one-on-one. That's a touchdown down here. Okay, he makes this throw, and again, you're talking opposite hash, whole way across the field. Stroud can make this throw. He has made this throw. It's just a little bit easier and safer going to this drag across the field. But this is a touchdown here to Olave, and I just wanted to point that out because it's a really crafty route. And it's nice because you'll see Olave do a lot of the things that JSN does. He's almost it's nice for JSN to have a guy like Olave where he can watch and see how successful he is because he does things. And obviously, Brian Hartline as their coach, played in the NFL a long time, was a big-time college receiver at Ohio State. By far one of the best, most knowledgeable wide receiver coaches in the country. He does a great job with these guys and getting them to play hard and play with knowledge and instinct. And he highlights and accentuates everything that they do really well. And you're going to see it. They got Marvin Harrison Jr. coming up. They got Julian Fleming. So these guys are just going to reload. They got a young guy out of Massillon that's in the system now. So you're going to see a lot of Ohio State receivers playing a lot of good football and making themselves names here over the next couple years. All right, that's it. Jaxon Smith-Njigba against Penn State. Hope you guys enjoyed. We'll see you guys soon.